Hey, Aubrey, what's shaking today?
How are you? I'm great.
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I'm excited to get into today's topic. Do you have a question for me here?
Yeah, I want to know, would you ever go skydiving? Or have
Oh
you
my,
been? I guess. I don't know. Have you been?
I've never been skydiving.
Me neither.
I've been parasailing, but never skydiving. So would
Mhm.
I ever go? Probably not.
Same. No, thank you. I've seen a few videos of like chutes not opening and
Oh
ooh,
my
I just
gosh.
so scary and terrible. So just a quick in case you guys aren't aware really fast the difference skydiving, you jump out of a plane and it's just you in a parachute. And then you mentioned parasailing. I've done that as well. That's where you're like attached to a boat. There's also
Yes.
a parachute, but you're behind a boat and in general it seems you're not nearly as high up and
Yes.
you're above water and
Yes.
much safer in a few ways. I
Did
did it
you
in Rocky Point
Mexico?
just this last time I was there. It was so fun. I
Oh,
loved
just
it.
recently.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
When did you
Mexico.
go?
Oh, a long time ago when I was, like, 12 years old in California.
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
fun. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I would actually do that now either, to be honest. I think I'm getting less brave, physically brave as I get older 'cause I just have more fear. I don't know. When
Right?
you're 12, you're like, "Whatever. Anything can
Yes.
happen. I'm fine," you know?
So here's my question. When we're talking today about the difference between perhaps and probably, so
Mhm.
if I say, would you ever go skydiving? How would it be different if you answered perhaps or if you answered probably?
Great question. So if I had said perhaps in my answer,
Hmm.
I would have put a subject there, right? Perhaps I would.
Mm.
Um, but
Yeah, you
with
gotta give a little
probably
more, right? Perhaps, and then I feel like I need to share why. Why am I saying
yeah.
perhaps?
And with probably, I just said probably not. And
Mhm.
that's enough. That's native, that's natural. So what is the difference, Aubrey?
Yeah, right. We're gonna dive into this today. It is a little nuanced, but hopefully by the end it'll be pretty clear what they
Yeah.
mean and which one you should use when. This actually was a really good questioner from a listener, Pravin,
Yes.
who emailed in the question, "What's the difference between perhaps and probably?" It's a very good question.
It's a great question. It's a great one. So let's go into, the meaning, right? What do they
Yes.
mean? What do both
So they
mean? Yeah.
both mean maybe.
Mhm.
Probably is definitely more of a yes, right? If it's, would you go skydiving? Probably. It's
Okay,
like
yeah.
maybe, yeah, probably yes, right?
Yeah, it's
There's a
stronger.
different, yes, definitely a different implied willingness and a different implied politeness in certain contexts too.
Mhm.
So,
And
like you said, probably is more of a yes, and perhaps is more of a maybe. And it can change depending on the tone we use too.
100%. So, and we do use these basically to answer a question,
Hmm.
mostly, would you say, or are there other
Hmm.
contexts?
We are going to talk about an exception, but in general, we use these most often to answer a question.
Yes, I love it. Okay, so let's get into it. Tell us
Yes.
about when we're answering a question here. What do we
Yes.
need to know? Mhm.
So, or to make a request, right? But this
Mhm.
first, we'll talk about answering a question with perhaps, and we're going to jump right in and do a little mini role play to show how
Yeah.
this might work. Start us out, Lindsay.
All right. Hey, wanna meet me for coffee tomorrow?
Perhaps. Okay, so this is sort of the example where you said I would feel like I would need to add something after perhaps. Why? How did that feel?
Oh, you left me hanging. You left me thinking, "Ooh,
Yes.
I don't really know if she likes me very much or wants to
Right.
spend." It also feels very formal. It
Yes.
was
It feels a
weird.
little rude, a little short, a little
Weird.
cold, right?
Yeah,
You have
cold.
to, if you're just going to say perhaps, you really need to say why. Why are you saying perhaps? Or it feels rude.
Yeah, and you also need to know that it is a little bit fancier sounding. It does,
Yes,
even
it's
if you
true.
continue and you
A little
say
more formal.
right, like, even if you continue to say, "Perhaps, but I'll have to check my schedule," it feels formal, which naturally does create distance in that
That's true.
connection. Yeah.
Yes, right? So if you are answering someone you don't know well or, a doctor or something, this feels very appropriate, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps, right, are you available March 22nd at 6 for an appointment with a doctor? Perhaps, but let me check my schedule.
Yeah, that's totally
Whereas
fine.
if it's a close friend, this might always be a little too or a little too formal.
Yeah, I totally agree. So be careful. So there's a few things to think about here when we choose the
Yeah.
word.
And that, of course, is for American English because this might be
Right.
much more common in other English speaking countries. To
Mhm.
Americans, it feels quite formal.
Yeah, it might be different. Yeah, we
Yeah.
focus on this show, guys, on American English. We really can't speak with much authority on British English, Aussie English, so we have had guests from those countries on before, and we will
Right,
in the
so
future.
they can speak with authority where we can't. So
Yeah.
again, to answer a question, now we're going to look at probably, which is a
Yes.
little different. Let's again, dive right into a role play here.
All right. I'm hosting a dinner party at my home this weekend. Are you free?
Probably. Okay,
Nice.
how did that feel?
I liked that a lot better.
It
Yeah.
is much better. It's still I feel like there is still a little bit of rudeness for me just to be like, "Probably." Like, I
It's
feel like I need to say why, maybe like, "Probably, but my mom's in the hospital, so I may have to play it by ear."
yeah, you still are leaving that ambiguity. So it's just not
Right.
enough. It's not enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're not gonna give an outright yes, anything else is like, "Okay, why? Why are you not willing to come to my party?" I need to know
Exactly.
why. Give me some
100%.
reasons.
Yeah. Okay. So that is the first situation then, Aubrey. To answer a question, what would be number 2? The second situation.
Yeah, so this is to make a request. And this most often you'll hear this with perhaps. Like, for example, perhaps you should close the window. And it is almost a little passive aggressive.
Yeah, it
People
is a
do
little.
say this, right? It means the same thing as could you close the window? What do you think, Lindsay? Would you say it this way?
Well, it all depends on the context. Am I already in a situation that
Hmm.
you would end up with some passive aggressiveness? Are the personalities passive aggressive? It so depends on the context, but yes, I agree. It does have hints and tones of passive aggressiveness for sure.
Yes. And we use it to be facetious, right? Here's an
Yes.
example, and this is where tone really matters. I might say, perhaps you should stop winning every game, and then maybe I'll want to play with you. Right?
Yeah.
We're with our tone, instead of just saying, "Hey, if you don't stop winning every game, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna play with you."
Yeah.
Instead, this word facetious, we're almost a little sarcastic. We're being a little more playful with it,
That's
and
more
you need the
playful.
tone. Yeah.
Yeah, that feels a little more benevolent,
Yeah.
right? It's not that passive aggressive, "Perhaps you should close the window," right?
Right.
It's but yeah, there's a lot we can do here for sure.
Mhm. And then there's a slangy version with probably, but this is very informal. You
Mm.
might hear someone say, like, probably she heard you. And again, very slangy, very regional. You might not hear it everywhere. It means
Oh,
the same as she probably heard you,
okay.
but this sort of very slangy version. So let's do a mini role play
Ah,
so we can hear it in
I
action
see,
here.
okay. So why do you think she's not talking to me?
Probably she didn't like when you yelled at her yesterday. Right? So this is where we might hear it. It's always going to sort of add emphasis, and you need that intonation. Otherwise, you would
Mm.
just say, she probably didn't like it when, right? But because I'm sort of being facetious
Yeah.
again, a
Yeah.
little sarcastic, like, maybe you shouldn't have done that,
Right,
then
right,
I
right.
put probably before for this emphasis.
Okay, so again, just to be totally clear for our listeners, which of these is what they'd see in a textbook?
Mm.
Which of the 2? Probably the second one, right? The more standard one, yeah?
Sure, you're gonna learn in a textbook, she probably
Probably
didn't
didn't
like
like.
when you yelled at her, and you'll
Yeah,
have probably defined as maybe,
yeah, yeah,
same as maybe she didn't like it when you did that. But the rest
exactly.
of this, you're not gonna learn from a textbook that
No
slangy
way.
way, or
No
or how
way.
to use it, like to learn the sort of facetious, sarcastic ways that need this interesting intonation. You can't get that from a textbook.
You really can't. That's why I love this that we're bringing this in. And yeah, so Aubrey, when you're talking to your friends or your family, you hear this too, right? Like maybe more than she probably she didn't like this. Beginning the
Yeah.
sentence with probably, yeah?
And
Would
I'm
you agree?
curious if you do as well. We say this a lot in the Northwest United States in Idaho. You'll hear this a lot where a sentence is started with probably. It's
Yeah.
maybe regional, it's very slang, but I do also hear it sometimes in TV shows, movies, but always in this kind of situation where someone is doing it intentionally to add sarcasm, to add that condescending, but playful
Interesting.
tone, right?
Mm.
Otherwise, it would just sound, ungrammatical.
Yeah.
But we're using it intentionally instead of saying, "She probably didn't like it."
Right.
We're switching the grammar and adding intonation to give this to create the sarcasm.
Yeah, and that's what we can do when we reach that level of fluency. We can break the rules and do it for a reason and know that we're breaking the rules and have fun with it, right? I would
Yeah.
say in my region, or especially in the Northeast, because that's where I'm from originally, not
Mm,
so much, not as
mm.
much, but I definitely have heard it for
Yeah.
sure. just wouldn't be what I would go to necessarily. But we break
Yeah,
other rules,
right,
Boston
absolutely.
accent. I mean, forget it. It's a nightmare.
Wherever you go, there are rules that are broken. It just depends on which ones for
That's
which
right.
regional dialect.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure, for sure. So what's the takeaway for today, Aubrey?
Yeah, so there are so many ways to say maybe, right? Two of them we covered today, perhaps and probably, but also possibly, we'll see. There are a lot, and each can have implied meaning. So you need to sort of know the nuance, the implication behind them, so you use the right one, because you could potentially create a misunderstanding or
Yes.
offense if you accidentally use the wrong one.
Oh my gosh, it used to drive me nuts. I would get a lot of "will see" from, like, parent figures, my friends' parents or my own parents, like, "Can we get ice
Yeah.
cream?" "We'll see." It would drive me nuts as a kid. Oh my gosh. We have to do another episode on that one,
I
for
know, I
sure.
say that to my kids all the time, and one of my children always, if I say, "We'll see," or "Maybe," he says, "I'll take that as a yes."
That's so clever. I
Every
love
time.
that.
So I have to, like,
That's
clear well, no,
adorable.
no, that's not a yes,
That's
that's a
so
maybe.
I love it. So smart. I wish I had been that smart as a kid.
I know, right? Same.
That's so funny. It's so good. I'm glad we went into this nuanced difference, right? I mean, we have to
Yeah.
know these nuances. And, in my mind, a big piece of the takeaway today is that once you get to that high level of fluency, guys, pay attention to your regional dialect, where are you living? If you're living in the States, what are the rules that people are breaking and why? And what is the tone that creates? Very interesting for
Yes.
connection.
Oh, so interesting. Awesome, Lindsay, this was a really fun chat. Perhaps I will see you tomorrow.
Probably, I would say so, yes. All
Nice.
right, take care, Aubrey. Bye.
Bye.